Yugi Bros!
What's up, my Yugi Bros? It's Connor, and I'm coming at you with another top 5 video today. Today we're going to talk about 5 cards that I seriously feel don't get talked about in this game at all. Before we start this video, remember to always comment, like, and subscribe. Please click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates. We will update our Patreon soon, I promise. I know it's in the outro now. Don't worry, it's coming. With all that said, let's get into the video. At number 5, I have Spider Egg. So I understand there's no insect deck currently that's really relevant in speed duels right now, but if one arises, this is definitely a card to be playing, assuming you're not dealing with an opponent that is playing a lot of piercing cards. This card says when your opponent declares a direct attack while you have 3 or more insect monsters in your graveyard, you negate the attack, and if you do, special summon 3 spider tokens, insect, earth level 1, attack and defense 100 in attack position. Now, obviously, you're not going to want to put these in attack position and then continue defending your life. But if like one attack goes through and they negate the attack and negates the attack, you get 3 tokens that you could use to whatever you want to do with them in the future. For one, you can just defend, like I said, unless they have piercing monsters or whatever. But 2, you can use these to tribute big monsters. And while I wouldn't completely suggest summoning any 2 big monsters or any 1 big monster with these cards is viable because you have to kind of run an insect deck to do so. The 3 tribute monsters that exist currently in speed for insects is Insect Princess, which is 1 tribute, Emperor's Mantis, I should say, which is 1 tribute, and Insect Queen that would normally be kind of hard to bring out. But with this card, Spider Egg, it's super easy. You make the tokens, you tribute 2 of them for Insect Queen the following turn, and you use the 3rd token to declare an attack with Insect Queen. Like I said, right now there is no insect deck that makes this card super relevant, but if and when one does arise, I could see this card being really, really powerful for speed duels. Moving on to my number 4, we have Legion the Fiend JESTER. Now, I know I've talked about this card in the past, but I wanted to bring up a few potential candidates for this card again. In the past, this card was used for something like a Dark Magician Girl Turbo type deck. But now we have the addition of Dark Red Enchanter. Legion the Fiend JESTER is a level 4 spellcaster, effect 1300 attack, 1500 defense. That says during the main phase, you contribute 1 spellcaster monster in face-up attack position in addition to your normal summon or set. So that's pretty cool. You can normal summon this card outright and then tribute it for a spellcaster type monster. Preferably, you're going to want to go for a 1 tribute spellcaster monster, of course. But if you have other monsters on the field, you can make a summon of a 2 tribute spellcaster monster. You can only gain that effect once per turn, and then if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add 1 spellcaster normal monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can only use this effect of Legion once per turn. So the first effect, you only gain it once per turn, so you're only going to get it once out of that, and then the second effect, you only get that effect once per turn. If you were to tribute multiple of these, let's say. But that's really cool because you can add any normal spellcaster monster. Rogue Doll is arguably the best option we have right now to kind of loop with that, but it has no restriction on level, so you can add something like the Dark Magician as well if you wanted to. But this, like I said, back to the 1 tributes monsters, the best ones that we currently have in speed duels are Dark Magician Girl, Gravekeeper Shaman, which I kind of want to touch on in a second, and Dark Red Enchanter. I think Dark Red Enchanter is the best option of the 3, because Enchanter says if it's normal summon, you place 2 counters on it, spell counters on it. Every time a spell is activated, it gets another counter, and it gains 300 attack for each counter. And then also, you can remove 2 counters from it once a turn to rip a card from your opponent's hand. So with Legion and Dark Red Enchanter, for example, you could normal summon the Legion. Immediately after that, tribute summon the Legion for a tribute summon of a spellcaster being Dark Red Enchanter, and then get the 2 counters on Enchanter and rip a card out of the opponent's hand right away. Plus, it gives you a pretty beefy monster to start with. So that's a really cool combo with this card. I think this card would be really good once, spellcasters maybe just get a little more support. But back on Gravekeeper Shaman, nobody really plays this card too much, but you can summon it with Legion if you wanted to as well, which I think is really cool. So you can get cards that, normally were a little bit harder to summon, in Gravekeepers, for example, out a lot quicker when you use something like Legion. Gravekeeper's Chief is another perfect example. It's a level 5 spellcaster type monster for Gravekeepers that could also be summoned additionally off after Legion is normal summoned. And then when this card is tribute summoned, you can target a Gravekeeper monster in your game and special summon it. So there's a lot of applications for this card that I feel like don't get used as much as it could. And while even though right now it may not be ideal in something like Gravekeepers, just keep an eye on it. It's definitely going to be a relevant card at some point in the near future. Moving on to number 3, we have Order to Smash. Now, I understand this card is very specific in what it can do and what decks it goes into, but hear me out real quick. This is a normal trap card that says target one level 2 or lower non-token normal monster you control, tribute that normal monster, and if you do, destroy up to 2 spell or trap cards your opponent controls. This card's really solid in a lot of things that exist. Currently, this game gave us a lot of level 2 or lower normal monsters. Insects have the ability to do it between Basic Insect and Winged Cleaver. Skull Servants / Zombies, if you want to say it, has the ability to use this card between Skull Servant, Fire Reaper, and Clown Zombie. Dinosaurs only have Tomosaurus, which doesn't really matter too much for that. And machines have Bakoichi, the frightening card that works with Dekoichi. But again, like it's a one of, so it's not too good. So zombies and insects kind of can roam this card the most. But popping up to 2 spell or trap cards on the field, that's pretty powerful for a deck of low-level normal monsters, to say the least. What makes this card interesting the most to me is that the fact that it doesn't target. And you actually don't tribute for cost here either. So you activate the card by targeting the monster. They can respond however they like, and if they don't do anything, on resolution you tribute monster and destroy the spell or traps. So then your opponent can't chain anything to that after the fact. So if this does get negated somehow, in some way, shape, or form, you keep your monster so you're not actually losing anything from the get-go. My number 2 is interesting. It's Mad Sword Beast. It's a dinosaur effect, level 4 Earth, 1400 attack, 1200 defense. It simply says if it attacks a defense position monster, it inflicts piercing damage. What's cool about this is that it's a dinosaur that pierces. Now, I know we already had that in Dark Triceratops, but that's a 1 tribute, 2400. He's very strong 1 tribute in this game currently, and having piercing gives him extra effects. But let's take a chapter out of Gravekeeper's book here for a second. A lot of Gravekeeper players have moved on to playing Spear Soldier because it pierces and it's searchable. While this card isn't searchable, if you put it in a certain deck that rules Dinosaur Kingdom, this becomes a 1700 beat stick with piercing. You throw this into the chaotic ideas that dinosaurs can already do to your opponent, and now they're just wallowing behind more defenses to try to make up for their defense, except for now you can pierce them even if you don't tribute a monster. I feel like this card doesn't see any play, and I'm kind of surprised as to why it doesn't. It's definitely a tech for sure. You don't have to play multiple copies of it. You don't even have to main deck it, but it's definitely a cool option to play if you want to do some more damage and, give dinosaurs another cool trick to throw at your opponent. Now, my number 1 is Adhesion Trap Hole. This card sees absolutely no play in speed duels, and I kind of wonder why. When an opponent's monster is summoned, monster or monsters, I should say, so if you summon multiple at the same time, this affects all of them, it halves the monster's original's attacks. This is really good, and no one seems to play it. Now, I understand Windstorm is a better trap, Kuna is a better trap. It's better to have generic traps like that in general. Dust Tornado, obviously, you'll see play before this, but this card is really underrated, I feel. Just talking about decks that are still around, if Oracle summoned, it halves its attack, so it's at 1,000. All of a sudden, even if it does reduce your monsters to 0, it's a lot easier to kill. Serpent Dragon, which is a gimmicky deck but still sees a lot of play, gets cut in half to, I believe, 1175, which makes it super easy to kill in the future turns because the entire deck revolves around the skill Nightmare Sonic Blast. Let's use more generic cards for examples here. Blue Eyes White Dragon. I understand it doesn't see a lot of play, but let's say they summon 2 Blue Eyes off the flute, right? They get summoned at the same time. You flip Adhesion, they both go to 1500. Now they're not even worth your time. Even if they summon Tyrant Dragon off of this, Tyrant Dragon only negates cards that target it, trap cards that target it. This doesn't target, so it cuts it as well to 1450. This card is ridiculous, and I'm surprised it doesn't even get sided right now. It just makes instant threats, instant knots. Like, you can knock out almost anything with this card, assuming it just lasts for the summon. But that's the best part. You don't have to wait for them to attack or whatever. It's on the monster's summon. So I definitely think this card could see more play. I'm surprised it doesn't, especially when threats like Oracle, Serpent Knight, Blue Eyes, and lesser options like Blade Knight goes to 1,000. Barrel Dragon goes to 13. Levia Dragon, of all things, goes to 13 as well, even though I understand water's not doing anything yet. Stuff like that. Triceratops goes to 12. Hyper Hammerhead goes to 750. Or if the thing is up, it cuts the original attack, so it'll go to 750 and then it'll gain 3. But still, it'll be a much less problem to deal with. So, for sure, I just feel like this card could see such a big amount of play, and it doesn't. And I'm kind of confused as to why. I understand there are other traps, like I said, that get more play, see my priority play than this card, but this is definitely something to decide. If you're looking to severely deal less with a big beefy beatstick, especially also if you're playing something like Serpent Knight Dragon and they try to summon something bigger to get over it and you half it. Well, now they just have a dead monster there that's not going to get over your guy, and then you're going to go into your turn and pop it or swing over it, and then that's just it from there. So Adhesion Trap Hole is my number one. Why the heck does nobody play this card? But as always, guys, what do you think of my list? Is there anything I missed? Are there other cards in this game that people don't talk about? I know there are, but I want to hear from you guys now. Leave a comment down in the comments below and let me know what you guys think I could have talked about or that I missed. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.